Greetings, folks, and welcome back to the Crap Den. Once again, that time of year has come where it stops being this year and suddenly becomes next year, which I guess would make it this year, then? Be it existentialism, confusion, or semantics, it doesn't matter. We've reached the end of the year. If you've been watching this channel's content for a while now, you know the drill. And if you're new to the channel, you'll figure it out pretty quickly, don't worry. I've got quite a lot to say about the year 2025 AD, but I won't be saying any of it if I don't get started with the video. In terms of the channels this year, you probably noticed there is a significant drop in uploads, with the first channel's video count halving this year and the second's remaining stagnant. However, where the quantity of videos dropped, their lengths held the same and even increased in the case of the first channel. For instance, the sequel to Embarrassing Electoral Episodes easily smashed the record for the longest video I've ever uploaded, a record previously held by its predecessor. However, that spike in viewership from last year did not carry over this year, with all the videos struggling to gain traction out of the gate. Sure, one of them performed decently in terms of viewership, but the others paled in comparison to that. In spite of the sluggish performances in terms of the core videos, the two series of shorts I started a couple months ago have been doing pretty decently, with about half of them nearing that 1K mark in viewership. Now, of course, all these trends were bucked by, my lawyer advised me not to bring that up over here, so I guess I'll gatekeep that. Anyways, I know it's been a bit of a naff year in terms of uploads. A lot of life circumstances got in the way, having started college and all, and you only have me to blame for that. And in all fairness, my creative life was just generally plagued by demotivation throughout the year. But I am truly proud of the few videos I did put out this year, and I appreciate all of you who took the time to sit down and watch them. And if you haven't watched any of them yet, I've linked all 6 of the main videos in the description. But if you just want a quick sample, the crew facing off against the incumbent Liberals under Prime Minister Louise Saint Laurent. The Liberals won one of the largest landslides in Canadian history.
For Austria, Ethiopia, Italy, and Germany, as well as a number of other fixes located in the changelog of the Steam Market.
To deal with your country's woes, you must send in the army to subdue the bandits and follow Manchukuo's partially unique focus tree. Ultimately, the longer career in politics ahead of him. His government survived until its mandate ended in 1930, when Bennett led the Conservatives to victory and
worked to rile up the masses in the critical states, feeding on enthusiasm to put them well out of reach for Trump and Chris Christie. However,
much like last year, I haven't much in terms of niceties or positive feelings for the media released this year. Almost all of it is shit. Blah blah blah, Sabrina Carpenter was a Disney star, something something, didn't need to know that about Travis Kelce, yada yada, I really don't give a hoot. None of it will ever be able to shake a feather at the classics. But what are the classics, I hear you asking? In my expert opinion, which is definitely not a number I pulled out of my ass, a classic is any piece of media at least 40 years old. That would mean anything released in the year 1985 can now be considered a classic. And contained within that beloved list, while by no means the only entries, are the songs We Are the World, The Power of Love, Running, You're Only Human, Second Wind, A View to a Kill, Only the Young, Back in Time, When the Going Gets Tough, The Tough Get Going, Don't You Forget About Me, The Night Is Still Young, and Living in America. As for full-on albums, some highlights include Hunting High and Low, Youthquake, Dare to Be Stupid, Listen Like Thieves, Etcheny Lyubov, Dead Man's Party, Songs from the Big Chair, Mr. Bad Guy, Whitney Houston, Once Upon a Time, No Jacket Required, Knee Deep in the Hoopla, and Brothers in Arms. In terms of now classic movies, we've got The Goonies, National Lampoon's European's Vacation, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Back to the Future, Clue, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Jewel of the Nile, The Breakfast Club, Pale Rider, Rocky IV, Commando, Fletch, Brazil, and The Color Purple. Also included in this vast list is the original Super Mario Bros. Game, the iconic Live Aid concerts, and the infamous Rick Camp game, in which the New York Mets and Atlanta Braves slugged it out for 19 innings straight over July 4th and 5th. Whew, that was a lot of good stuff right there. And though I may come off as dismissive of all the new stuff earlier, there were a couple of things put out this year that I actually do want to talk about. Firstly, Paradox again dropped 2 DLCs for Hearts of Iron 4, Graveyard of Empires, aka the DLC everybody hates, and No Compromise, No Surrender, aka a giant money sink. Then, a couple of months ago, Kino came out of nowhere with a new old release entitled Molni Indri, or Indri's Lightning. This album is another collection of re-recorded songs, taking the late Victor Soy's original vocals and recording the instruments in a modern studio environment. And though I've only heard 3 of the 12 tracks, they're very faithful recreations, capturing many of the original song's special quirks. And, like everyone else at this point, I've watched a Minecraft movie. I was a huge fan of Minecraft in my younger days. Hell, my channel name is literally just my old Minecraft username. And I was initially skeptical of a live-action movie for a game entirely made up of squares and cubes. And honestly, it's It's alright. All of the memes caused quite a bit of unnecessary pandemonium, and I was quite sick of most of them well before I hunkered down and watched the movie. And on that note, I will now proceed to extol the merits of Death by Lightning, a miniseries about President James Garfield and his killer, Charles Guiteau. I really enjoyed this miniseries. It's much more faithful to the actual history it's trying to depict than its contemporaries, and the characters look pretty similar to the real-life counterparts. Obviously, it still employs its fair share of artistic license, and there's a few too many yabos for my liking, but those are minor drawbacks, and frankly, to be expected of a modern series. See, Netflix? When you actually try, you can still produce something people will actually want to binge. Well, it's been quite an eventful year for many people. On my end, I finally graduated from high school, got my first taste of living on my own, and reached the age of majority, enjoying all the fruits of all that entails. But enough about me. This year added a lot to the world's history books, so I've got a lot to mention. Firstly, a bunch of major world figures died this year. Among them include major political figures like Dick Cheney, Muhammadu Buhari, Jean-Marie Le Pen, David Souter, Tomichi Moriyama, Kit Bond, Charlie Kirk, Sylvester Turner, Arnold Palacios, Wong Mokhtar Radin, Raul Grijalva, and Jerry Connolly. But aside from legislators and leaders, the world lost other major individuals, including Bob Uecker, Pope Francis, Robert Redford, James Watson, Rob Reiner, Ace Frehley, Ozzy Osbourne, Brian Wilson, Jane Goodall, George Foreman, Gene Hackman, Jim Lovell, Hulk Hogan, Brigitte Bardot, George Wendt, David Horowitz, Rick Derringer, and Roy Thomas Baker. And since I wasn't able to include the passing of former President Jimmy Carter in last year's video, I'll give him a mention here. Well, I just did. But anyways, now we move from the list of the departed to the list of events that will surely make the history books of the future. And when we look back on the year, I imagine only a single question forces its way to our mental forefronts. What in the fuck was this year all about? Orange Man, Trudeau resigns, a coup in Guinea-Bissau. Sora 2, no king's protests, Yoon Soo-yeol is convicted. Tariff scares, a new Grand Duke, and Keir Starmer went crazy. Gen Z coups, ceasefire, twice. And Bolsonaro goes to jail. Nighttime strikes, Shiba quits, Romania votes again. Aircraft chaos, another heist, and even more wildfires. Free schlep, and people hate ICE, and age verification laws. Chicken jockey, and elections here and there. A new French, and he's gone. But the Pope's American, and there was a lot of senseless political violence in the States, and that didn't really fit with the flow I had going. Oh, hey, the French guy's back. But...
Jesus Christ. Fucking hell, man. I'm finished.
In conclusion, 2025 sucked, but definitely not in that it was a boring year. While it was a very transformative year in my life, it was also a very stressful and calamitous year. Maybe 2026 will be better, but at some point I think it would be best if I stopped lying to myself. But hey, give yourself a nod for having made it through this year. There's extra bonus points out there for those who didn't mentally tab out too. But anyways, hopefully you've enjoyed this video and the others I've created this year. I hope you all stick around as the next half of this godforsaken decade rolls in. And remember, drink your water and stop falling over.